Let's take a look at how we can map population density and voting patterns. And for this, I'm going to use the US lower 48 population density file and the precinct voting file that you can find in the link in the description for this video. It's for the lower 48 states in the US. And I'll assume here that you've already got up to speed with how to use Aerialod, but I will mention a few little user tips as I go through anyway. So the first thing we need to do is make sure you've downloaded those two files, and then to add the terrain layer, which in this case is population density, we'll just click the load height image box in the top right, navigate to where I've got it saved, which is this folder, click on the file and click open. And it's going to open like this, and as usual what I usually do is hold down my right mouse button and spin it around into a position I like. I'll use the scroll wheel to zoom in a bit too. So that's our terrain essentially, but it is population density data, and that's from the WorldPop website. I'll usually just change the scale on the right hand side just to increase the vertical extrusion so I can see the population spikes. We'll adjust that later on though. The next thing we need to add is the color map. So to load a color image, I'm just going to click once on the color square. There's the US lower 48 precinct voting pattern from 2020, red Republican and blue Democratic Party. Click open and it's overlaid on top, which is nice. If you ever have a situation where there's a mismatch in size, you can scale the X and Y so it moves horizontally or vertically. But in this case, I've already prepared these files so they match, so I'll put that to 0. There's an actual scaling button as well though for shrinking or increasing the size. So you can move things around, but right now we don't need to. But one thing we do need to do is change the underlying base color, which is kind of beige. Now if I click the little color icon above where the square is, it will turn off temporarily the color map. And what I want to do is I want to left click once on the little beige color patch on the right, and I'm going to make that white, and then I'll turn the color map back on. Okay, so that's good. A couple of things here. The actual thickness of the underlying I suppose the underlying terrain map, it gives the coast a kind of wall blocky appear. So we're going to take the offset value and reduce it down, probably to about -50 for now. And I'm going to take the scale up to maybe 10. Actually, let's try 12. So that's going to just make it easier to see the population spikes. The effect that has, of course, is it makes the coast look a bit chunky. So I'm going to take the offset on that down to -100 and hit enter. Okay, so that's better. The next thing I'm going to do is change my image size. That's the background canvas essentially. It's dark grey right now and it's 1280 by 800. I'm going to change that to 1920 by 1080. So that gives us a 16:9 aspect ratio, and it's going to fill a standard phone or computer screen. Enter, and that's that. On the left hand side, I'm going to scroll to the bottom, making sure I've got all selected. And the color patch for ground is dark grey. So it's ground that's in the background. I'm going to left click it, change it to white. Okay, so that's much better. Then I'll go down to the bottom right of the canvas area, and at the moment it's on orthogonal camera view. I'm going to change it to perspective. And you can use other ones, but perspective can be quite useful. To move it around, remember, so that to move the model around within the frame, I'll hold down the space bar and then I'll left click and hold it down. So I'm holding the space bar down and I'm left clicking here, but I'm holding the left mouse button down and I can move it around. And you'll recall that the right mouse button will allow you to rotate. You can also use the cube to spin around. If I click the cube button, the cube will go away. But you can use the cube to navigate, which is quite nice. And you can also use the ruler. It's a camera ruler. So if I click on that, I can move the X and Y axes like that. It usually moves in increments of 5. I'm going to position this just in the middle. Scroll wheel will zoom in. I think I want it to be like that. And now I'm just going to change a couple of other things and then I'll let you experiment on your own time. The first thing I'll do is change the sky from uniform lighting, which will be the default, and that can be nice, but I'm going to change it to atmospheric scattering. Now, depending on the power of your computer, it may take some time to redraw. Usually when you change a setting like this, it might go a little bit fuzzy and then gradually come back to sharp, but don't worry about that. My computer that I'm recording this on has a very powerful graphics card, and it's quite a powerful gaming PC basically. So I've done that. I'm going to take the angle of the sun in the top left down to 5. So it's getting a bit darker, it's a bit crazy. I'm going to change the sun angle. I'm going to make it go sort of like this, I think. I want the shadows to go over to the east. Let me see. Maybe like that. I mean, you can just adjust it. I usually click left click over that bar and use it as a slider. But you can just type in numbers. Let's do 290 and hit enter. So it went dark because we lowered the sun angle, but we can increase the exposure further down in the film settings, and that'll make it lighter. The gamma value, if I change that to 1, you'll see what happens. It should go darker. So you'll see once you change the exposure, if you put the gamma to 3, that's okay, quite like that. Then I'm going to actually change the camera ruler on the right to maybe like 40, 35, maybe 40 actually. I'll reposition the map. There we go. I'm going to go over to the right, and the bounce and diffuse settings, there's some kind of the way that the light scatters. So I'm going to change them to 10, both of them, and hit enter. And what else I'm going to do here? Let me try taking the exposure up a little bit more. Okay, that's not bad. I can change the intensity, so it's at 70 by default. If I increase it, might be too much, so let me take it back down to, yeah, let's take it down to 60. I'm going to change the me setting. If you change that from like the default 40 all the way down, it usually doesn't look like it's done much, but it can sharpen up the image. All right, so what else can we do? I could change the offset so that the coast is a bit chunkier, so it creates more of a shadow, maybe like that, maybe to 80. And I could right click and change the angle slightly so we get a better view of, say, the spikes in California. I could do it from any angle I want to. All I'm doing is right clicking here and spinning it round. There's so much more you can do with this, but that's just the basics of getting this scene set up. And if I want to export that as an image, which I'll do now, I will go over to the render settings on the right. Now the default is going to be a square 1024 by 1024. I want to change that to 1920 by 1080. I could double that and it would be like a 4K image, so really high resolution, but I'll do this for now. And if I hit render, what happens there is I'll choose where to save it to. I'll give it a name. I've already done a couple of examples here. So I'm going to give it a name and hit save. And then we'll see this bar progressing. Now my bar, as you'll see, is going pretty fast. That's because of the power of my PC and particularly the graphics card. If you find yours takes 15 or 20 minutes, there's not really much you can do about that, apart from finding a more powerful computer. So some patience may be required. Mine is very fast. My previous computer, this would take about half an hour. So you need to be patient. This is a large image, and I've extracted it now. So what I'm going to do is I'll just get the image on the screen and show you what it looks like. Okay, here it is in the Microsoft Image Viewer. If I click on the % button or the plus button to get it to 100%, there we go. So we've got a reasonably sized, quite crisp image that shows us a combination of voting patterns and population density. The way this one works is I coloured the counties, or actually the precincts, sorry. Darker red means more Republican vote, darker blue means more Democratic vote, and the lighter shades, maybe reds, lighter shades like pink, just means Republican, but not quite as strong, and the same goes for the blue. Lighter shades of blue, they are Republican, they are Democratic precincts in terms of who won there, but they're less dominant. So that's the way that works. I'll move that out of the way now. And just remember, in this version of Aerialod, If I go down on the right hand side in the map settings, I hit all, I scroll down, there's settings where you can save your map settings, render settings and camera settings. What this does, it will, once you click on the button, it will save a text file which remembers the settings you used in this project, so you don't need to reload them again. So that does save you some time. So hopefully that's been a useful introduction to how you can use two data sets to create some interesting overlays in this version of Aerialod.